Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connect Africa. We are here today. Again, I am joined by our my brothers and their family of Connect Africa, Kwame Gonza and Dr. Binyam Miskun, to discuss. We have two topics to discuss today. One is the response given to the accusation by the U.S. government regarding human rights of Ethiopia and Eritrea, and we focus on the response given by these two governments. It's rather a strong response. And then the other one is regarding, the geopolitics shifting, the reshaping in the world, and where are we as an African, or where is Africa in all this? So those are the 2 points. Welcome, my brothers, again.
Oh, thank you very much, Mahlet. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Mahlet.
having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
It's indeed a pleasure to have you here. Yeah, so let's kick it with Kwame as the first question regarding, those responses given by the Ethiopian government and the Eritrean government to the accusation of human rights, which is completely a one-sided report right after Blinken left the region. So, what is your view? How do you analyze that? I'm rather more interested, those kind of strong. It's not the first time that it's the Ethiopian government or the Eritrean government giving this. Where does it come from? And, what other countries can learn from this, by standing on your to be resistant and not to accept everything what is coming from the US. Yeah, back to you, Kwame.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mahlet. And once again, thank you, my brother Biniam, for being present also. I think it is very important while we are talking about this statement, which I want to share. So I'll try and go ahead and read it for other people to hear. So basically, this is a statement which the government in Addis Ababa, in Ethiopia, came out to give in response to the accusation of the United States, which accusations came out through a report in which the United States was detailing the what it called the atrocities which were committed in Ethiopia during the last 3 years, ever since there was rebels in the northern part of Tigray who wanted to overthrow the government, and these rebels were, of course, sponsored by the United States, and they were encouraged in their activities by the United States. And we are not going to go in detail of what happened for the last 3 years. So this statement came out in accusation of Ethiopia and Eritrea, pinning them as the sole group of people who have been responsible for the atrocities, the various atrocities, as the United States called it, that were committed in the northern part of Eritrea during all this period of the war. Even though we know that the TPLF, by then, the TPLF army is the one which initiated the attacks on the northern command of the federal, the federal army of Ethiopia. So the United States came out to, to give a pinning statement. But this statement, which the United States came out to give, actually, by the time it came, the government in Addis Ababa, is already, even as we speak today, is already in the process of reconciling and rehabilitating the people in the region. and reintegrating even the so-called rebels, within the country. So this statement, Ethiopia came out to respond to that sort of unfounded, and Ethiopia actually used a language which I would say was strong and timely. I think the language was timely, and I can confidently say that it was called for, because the Secretary of State of the United States was just leaving, Ethiopia. So in Ethiopia, they thought that he had come to mend relations with the government.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately when he left, then the issue, this report, which is in fact attacking Ethiopia, and attacking also not only Ethiopia, but also Eritrea in this case. So Ethiopia came out immediately to try to defend itself from these accusations. So there is a lot of things which I would throw about, which I will throw in for us to understand why Ethiopia had to come, had to come out this way. But let us first read, the letter itself, and then we will go on and try to dissect it and break it down to see the feeling of Ethiopia about the behavior of the United States ever since this conflict started, even since the last 3 years, from 2020 when it broke out. So here is the statement. It reads that the United States State Department has issued a statement determining that certain grave crimes were committed during the conflict in northern Ethiopia. Considering the report of the joint investigation by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, this statement does not contain new findings. So this is, what Ethiopia is saying, that the statement which was issued by the United States Department of State, because this is Blinken, this is Senator Blinken. I mean, this is Secretary Blinken, because the statement was issued by the United States Department of State, which Blinken leads. So it goes on to show you that he probably did not achieve some of the objectives for which he came when he was leaving the United States and reached Ethiopia. So immediately, he left Ethiopia. Then they issued this statement to try to intimidate Ethiopia, because he has failed to achieve some of those objectives. So Ethiopia is saying that there's no new findings actually in this, there's no really new findings in this, statement that has been issued, because the findings have already been included in the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, findings, investigations, and even the UN office, the United Nations, High Commission of Human Rights, the statement, the statements which were issued, the findings which were issued by these two organizations, you know, uh, 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 the original findings actually, that the United States Department is not bringing anything new. So the government goes on to say that the government in Ethiopia does not accept the blanket condemnations contained in the statement, and does not see any value in such unilateral and adversarial, approach. So what the Ethiopian government goes on to say is that it doesn't accept the accusations against Ethiopia and even against Eritrea, because these are interfering in the first place. They are interfering in how Ethiopia is conducting this issue. In the first place, you see that the African Union is the one which led this peace agreement, the Pretoria Agreement. The United States was not part of this. So I think that this is why, the government had to come out strong and say, these statements are unilateral in nature, because you don't belong here. You are not part and parcel of this, settlement and this agreement. And I think this is the feeling which we are witnessing. The statement is selective. Actually, they highlighted this word. There's a couple of words which they chose out and they highlighted, and they say the statement is selective,
Mm-hmm.
as unfairly. So they highlighted the word selective,
Mm.
The statement is selective, as it unfairly apportions blame among different parties in the conflict for no apparent reason. The statement appears to exonerate one party from certain allegations of human rights violations, you know, such as rape and other forms of sexual violence, despite the clear and overwhelming evidence, you know, about its culpability. So the statement, which was issued by the United States Department of State, tried to exonerate the one side, and here the federal government in Addis Ababa did not want to mention TPLF, mention Eritrea. So he said that TPLF has been exonerated, of sexual violence, whatever they did, you know, uh, but Ethiopia did not take it at heart. But this is what the United States, is trying to do, and Ethiopia called this selective. This is selective, which means is unacceptable. Is unacceptable because the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the United Nations, Commission on Human Rights has already, implicated this group, that these people, they committed, atrocities, including rape and all kind of things which we would not want to repeat again. So they go on to say that the statement is untimely. You see, so the government goes on to say that the statement is untimely, and they highlighted the word untimely. It is coming shortly after the launching of national consultations on options for a transitional justice policy. One of the pillars of transitional justice policy is accountability. So, so it's sort of like the United States Department of State in its statement wanted to teach Ethiopia. And now here, the Ethiopian Minister of Foreign Affairs comes out and says the statement you are giving is untimely, is late, because the thing you are talking about, we have already started the process on them. We have already started on the process of transitional justice. We have already a policy of transitional justice. Okay. And it even starts to, to lecture the United States Department and says one of the pillars of transitional justice policy is accountability. This foresees that there will be further investigations into the allegations of all kinds of crimes, that the statement alleges. These investigations will consolidate those undertaken by the Interministerial Task Force implementing the recommendations of the Ethiopia Human Rights Commission and also the United Nations Office of the High Commission for human rights, joint investigations. So Ethiopia is saying already the investigations were carried out, and we are implementing this policy of transitional justice, trying to address the findings of the reports that were trying to address the findings and investigations of the Ethiopia Human Rights Commission investigations. So it called this. So it went on to say that it thus prejudices these national efforts. So it prejudices the national effort, these national efforts being carried out, by the Ethiopian government, and whose efforts, were, are based on through investigation. You see, so it prejudices these national efforts, to thoroughly investigate allegations, allegations of whoever is the culprit. So the United States statement is inflammatory. So he went on also to highlight the word inflammatory. So if you go back at the beginning, you can see that he highlighted the word selective, anti-inflammatory. You see, so the US statement is inflammatory. Whatever the intention of the United States Department, this statement will be used to advance highly polarized campaign, pitting one community against others in the country. So he said that this partisan and divisive approach from the United States is ill-advised. You see, is ill-advised. as Ethiopia is implementing the peace agreement, such apportioning of blame is unwarranted and undercuts the support of the United States for an inclusive peace process in Ethiopia. The visit of the United States Secretary of State gave hope that the two countries are poised to amend their bilateral relations. The government of Ethiopia hopes that despite the US's statement, the frank discussions held and understanding reached during the Secretary of State's visit to Ethiopia will help restore the strategic relations between Ethiopia and the United States. The government of Ethiopia will continue implementing all measures of accountability, including finalizing the nationwide consultation on transitional justice and ensuring that justice is done for all victims. Friends of Ethiopia are welcome to constructively support this um, process. Yeah, so that is how far I would go to read. But to break it down for me, I see that the statement itself is timely and is firm as it should be, because I believe that the Ethiopian government has been patient in this journey. It has been really patient with the United States, and even to allow the Secretary of State to come to Ethiopia, you know, that was a very powerful gesture. It shows someone who's really very accommodating. After all, the things which the United States has done, after all the attack which the United States has been engaged in, trying to overthrow the government in Ethiopia. I mean, it is really a very good gesture by the government in Ethiopia. So we sense that the government is trying to be very firm and point out to the United States that the approach of the United States is very outdated, because the process of transitional justice has already started in Ethiopia, and this process the United States was not part of it. This process was led by the African Union. So the government is saying that you have no right, to come in and claim, and make all these claims when the process has started long ago, as it has already mentioned. The Ethiopian, Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the UN Office of, Human Rights, that it is all, both of these are the thing, are the investigations, the findings of these investigations are the ones which Ethiopia is working with. So I think this language is for me is timely, as well as is a lesson for us as Africans. I think to be very firm when we are handling these who have decided to be bullies. In many cases, the United States has decided to be a bully all across, that it can come to get by force, blackmail, and intimidation.
Uh, are you there, Kwame? Yeah, it looks like it has a connection problem, but I think he made his point. Yeah, thank you for that. He will join us back, I'm sure. Yeah, so that is as far as dissecting the response written by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Ethiopian government to the US allegation or accusation.